Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mike Armstrong podcast show. And this afternoon, we're joined by Lisa Ali, who's a health and weight loss coach and currently based in Spain. How are you doing today, Lisa? You okay?
Thanks, Mike. Thank you very much for having me on the podcast today. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, brilliant. And obviously, as it's the sort of topical moment still, I tend to ask people how have the lockdown been for them, and also if you're pivoting in your business during that time. So, how's it been for you?
Well, the Spanish lockdown was very, very harsh. And I don't think people realise quite how harsh it was. We had 8 weeks where it was virtually like house arrest. You could only go out to the grocery store once a week, or, if you had to go to the doctors or something like that. So there was no walking. And the Spanish police will fine you €600 on the spot if they caught you breaking those restrictions. So it was very, very tough. And then we moved into different phases. And the region I'm in, we were due to move to phase 1 and they knocked us back for a week. So it made it even harder because, we thought, oh, well, at least we can go for a walk next week, and we couldn't. So it was really, really tough here. And I'm quite lucky. Obviously, I had some fitness equipment. So I set up a little circuit in the back garden because it's my life, going to the gym, walking, playing tennis is what I do every day, Yeah. So I was quite lucky. So I managed to set up a little circuit in the back garden during lockdown. But post-lockdown, it's been really interesting, Mike. I think it's been almost more challenging for those of us that live here than the actual lockdown itself, because we moved through these different phases and it went quite, I think they handled it quite well, the Spanish government. It went quite nicely. So it went from, you could go for a walk for an hour, and then it was like you could get with people outside, you could meet friends outside. Then it was like the bars and the restaurants started opening and what have you. But I think what we found now, since we're in our nueva normalidad, as the Spanish government call it, the new normality, they've opened the borders to international tourism and local tourism, so national tourism. And so we've seen an influx of people, which correlates to a rise in cases. No surprise there. I'm not doing my Miss Marple terribly well if I tell you we've seen the cases increase. So that's a little bit of a concern for us that live here, that we might have to go back into different phases after we were very, very careful. But interesting for me, business increased. I think what lockdown did for me is, I've been using Zoom for 3 years. Nobody really had heard of Zoom, 1 or 2 people. So I'd say, oh, have you got Zoom? They'd say no. Of course, everyone knows what Zoom is now. Even if they don't have Zoom, they know, oh, yeah, I can download it. It's very simple. I've got Zoom. So I think that was the first thing that changed for me. So people realize that you don't have to be in the same room to have a meaningful conversation. And the second thing was, I call it the Joe Wicks phenomenon. Now, a lot of people in the industry don't like Joe. They're jealous of him. That's my take on it. They're jealous. But I think it was what he did made people understand that health and fitness doesn't have to be face-to-face again. Now, I don't do what Joe does. I leave that to people like Joe. As I joke, I'd say, who wants to see the old bird in the lycra bouncing about? Certainly I wouldn't. It's not what I do. It's not the way that I work. But it did make people understand more that you don't need to be face-to-face with somebody to lose weight, to do exercise effectively, to have a meaningful conversation, to be coached around your weight loss and your health journey.
Yeah, definitely. So he's definitely, spread the word, if you like, to that things can be done virtually and various different sort of ways that you can engage with people. So I guess then obviously you've been engaging with people a lot more online, since you've had to, if you like.
No, I've been fully online for the last years.
Okay. So you were already fully online. That's why you've been using. So you weren't just using Zoom occasionally. You were fully using Zoom to
No.
do what you do. Is that because of the
Yeah,
relocation?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. My business is, I've been fully online with my business, well, it'll be 4 years in September, so nearly 4 years, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So you was an early adopter to Zoom, full time, if you like, rather than just
Yeah,
because I used to use online things like Skype occasionally and Hangouts, Google, and all. As part of day-to-day business, you'd use these things occasionally, but they weren't considered the norm. And it's a bit like with communication tools. Sometimes some people are on WhatsApp, some are on Messenger, some are on the iPhone, whatever. But it wasn't one place for everyone. And Zoom is
yeah,
sort of been like that,
absolutely.
Zoom has become the one place that everyone seems to have,
Absolutely. And the reason I moved from Skype to Zoom is because it's more stable as a platform.
Yeah,
I get a lot more stability on Zoom than I ever did on Skype. And, a lot of the people, my clients that I work with, well, firstly, I'm international, so I have clients all over the world. But secondly, a lot of the people I work with in the old life would travel a lot for work. So they couldn't be guaranteed necessarily they would be at home or in a certain place. They might be in a hotel. So, yeah, in that respect, it just helped people perhaps understand a little bit more that there is a different way in which you can work with somebody.
yeah, definitely. So, Whaley, you've obviously we met online on LinkedIn, and I
Yeah,
don't know too much about you. This is sort of our first real chat, if you like, which is you're not the first person I've had on my podcast and my YouTube channel who I haven't known that well. But most of the people I have on are people I know through networking. So I do a lot of networking. So they're people I've already had
yeah.
some knowledge of or relationship with or whatever. I don't know too much about the background to yourself. So do you want to sort of, where are you from originally, and tell us a little bit about your business and why you ended up moving to Spain and all of that, a bit of the history, if you like.
Well, I'll tell you, that's a long story. How long have we got, Mike? I'll try and
Well, I haven't.
be.
I've got till 2, so it's only 1:15 at the moment. So fire away. I have most of my chats are 30 to 45 minutes anyway, but I
We'll
can't
have to
go
be
an
done
hour.
because I've got something just a bit before that anyway. So
Okay.
I'm joking.
Yeah.
So originally, I was born and bred in Hastings, East Sussex, and I moved to London, and I spent most of my adult life in London until I moved back to Hastings when I was in my early 50s, late 40s actually. Yeah, so I moved back to Hastings with my husband now, my second husband, and we went back to Hastings. And when I moved out of London, so I was a long-term interim manager. So I used to do project and programs, predominantly in local government, but also, I've worked for big national companies like the Associated Press. I've worked for the BBC, various different people doing contract work. But when I moved back to Hastings, the thought, a lot of the time, if you're in London, you were commutable to places. Occasionally, you would have to stay away with a contract. It would take you to somewhere else. I've been in Nottingham, Ipswich, places like that. But I knew from Hastings, anywhere that I would go to, I'd have to commute. So I started retraining, and health and fitness had always been something I'd been interested in. And I started off at one place. So I did like a level 2, very low level gym instructor qualification. And it was actually quite hard. Like for somebody who's got an MBA, doing a level 2 gym instructor was quite a challenge, going back into studying. But it was like, I knew I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to work in a gym. Then I did a personal trainer course. I knew I didn't really want to do that. It was okay. Then I did lots of different sort of courses so I could teach classes. And that was okay, but it's not really what I want to do. And then I did a diploma in exercise referral. And then I started to get really interested because that meant I could work with people who have longer term conditions. So anything from heart conditions through joint replacements, through hypercholesterolemia and hypertension. So that gave me much more interest, and that started to feel like something I was much more interested in. And then I really found my niche. So I went in and I did a level 4 in obesity and diabetes management. And that really started to interest me. As somebody who struggled with their own weight over the years, I really thought, gosh, yes, this is something I really get and I understand. So I always knew that I wanted to go online. As I say, I didn't want to be the old bird bouncing around in Lycra at 8 o'clock on a spin bike. That wasn't for me. But my circumstances, I had some personal tragedy, and I went back into the interim market for a couple of years. So I was commuting up from London, from Hastings into London. And I just felt like exhausted by it really quickly, and I gained a lot of weight really quickly. And then I went on holiday and I gained a lot more weight really quickly. And I couldn't believe how the change in circumstances had thrown my routine so much that as a trained health and fitness professional, I couldn't manage my own weight. I couldn't do it. And I was like, I know what I need to do. When people say they know what they need to do, they really don't, but that's a whole nother story. But I really did know the mechanics of what I should be doing, and I couldn't do it. And I met my former coach. I was one of his last fitness clients, and then I went on to be a business client with him. And it became so clear, but it was quite embarrassing that I reached out and said, I need help. But then I think, you know what? Bill Gates reaches out. He's got a coach, you know. Richard Branson. Yeah. Most people have a coach. Why not have one for your health and your weight loss, particularly if you're a busy person? You know, and particularly if you need some support. So I made the decision, and I went, as I say, about 4 years ago, I went fully online, supporting interim managers, consultants.
Did you move to Spain by then, or was that just something you wanted to do? Is that because Spain
came a little bit later.
Yeah, but is that because you was from Hastings and you still had contacts in London or whatever? So was that to fill the gap of the geographical travelling and that sort of thing?
No, not really. It was, as I say, it was something I always wanted to do. I had to take some time out personally from the fitness industry and go back into the interim world. So it was a conscious decision to leave my contract. And it was quite funny, actually, because I was in contract in a very well-known London borough, but I won't mention which one. And the programme manager kept saying, well, we're getting rid of all the interim staff. They'll all be going in September. And I was going away in August. And he was like, well, you're all going to be going in September. So I'm like, well, I might as well ditch my contract. There's no point. You know, he's openly saying you're all going. So I said to him, look, you know, I don't think there's any point in me coming back for a week or so in August. And then he said, yes, I didn't mean you, Lisa. I want you to stay. And I'm like, well, that's not the impression you were giving. I'm going, you know, sorry about that. So I made a proactive choice to finish the interim work and focus full time on supporting people who were like me, people who were interim managers, consultants, contractors, you know, busy people traveling from home to hotel, and help them reach their goals. And then I guess we moved to Spain about, it will be 3 years in December. Okay. So that was just something else. It was, I think, actually, it wasn't just something else. I'll tell you the honest truth. When I finally, after years of struggle of losing weight and gaining weight, doing every diet going, doing Weight Watchers, doing Slimming World, doing juicing, I did diet pills, I'm ashamed to admit, but I had tried diet pills. I was desperate. And when I worked out actually how simple it is, and I wanted to share that, and I had such a major transformation in my life. It made me have the belief to quit the interim world, to do this full time, to move to another country, to do all the things that I've really wanted to do all my life. And that started with me losing the weight and building my belief in myself, my energy, my confidence, having coaching, and doing the things that I've always wanted to do.
Yeah. Because to me, most diets don't work because most people haven't got the attitude, the mentality to pull them off. Because most diets actually are just they're a temporary thing that you stop and then replenish. You lose a bit of weight and then put it back on, and sometimes or often worse. And to me, if you want to change your body shape, you have to change your lifestyle. So it's not just a case of don't eat certain things for a while and then eat them all again, or eat this recipe or that or whatever. To me, I've always been very physical. I've played a lot of sports and stuff. And obviously, I've been in a professional career. I was 10 years at a tech startup business where I got promoted 9 times in 6 years. And, sometimes when you're doing 70, 80 hours a week, and at the time I had a part-time business as well, so I'm doing 30 hours a week on another business. And when you're working all like that, sometimes wanting to go out and exercise is the challenge, because you're knackered, you're tired. It's priorities. If you're prioritizing growing a business rather than being healthy, then things can slip, if you like, yeah. But there's been lots of times when then I've gone a bit too big and I've gone, right, I want to lose a stone or whatever. And I can lose a stone really, really quickly, and I can keep it off quickly if I want to, by exercising, because I believe that exercise is the best form of dieting. If you eat healthy and once you start exercising, you eat better anyway, because you've just gone out and done all of that work, and you don't want to put it back on, if you like. So actually just going out and starting to run or starting to jog or starting to ride a bike makes you eat less, in my opinion. Or if you're really working out, it can make you eat a bit more, but those extra calories don't matter anyway because you're burning off more, So that's my sort of mentality on it,
I'm going to agree with some of what you say, but then I'm going to disagree with one bit of what you say. So I have, my program is called Project You, Reclaim Your Body with My No Diet Formula. I am a big advocate of shooting down the diet industry because they want you to fail. At the last count, it was about $165 billion globally.
They want you this stuff.
They want you to keep coming back. They don't actually teach you anything that's useful. They teach you how to count points. Points aren't real life. Points aren't potatoes. No. Potatoes are a vegetable. So they don't actually teach you a sustainable implementation system. So what I talk about is you don't actually need information. You need implementation. You need a super simple way that if you are working 80 hours a week, you can implement things without having to think about it too much. And alongside that, what you want to do is create sustainable habits. So I totally agree with you on that. Diets don't work. Diets set you up to fail. And I really don't like the diet industry. Somebody actually said to me the other day, I don't want to work with you because I don't want to work with the diet industry. I'm like, I'm not the diet industry. I'm an absolute down with the diet industry. I'm absolutely the opposite.
My mum tried every diet, like all through her adult life. My mum tried every. They don't work.
I did. As I say, I'm ashamed to say, that I've bought diet pills in the past. I'm absolutely appalled to think about that now. Yeah. But the bit about exercise is you can't out-exercise a bad diet. 80% of your weight loss effort will come down to diet. There's no two ways about it. So 80% does come down to what you eat. 20% will come down to exercise. Now, exercise, of course, is super important for so many different reasons. It's for our heart health. It's for how it makes us feel. But if you are exercise, now I've literally got clients at the minute, and all I'm getting them to do is walk. Yeah. That's all they can do, walk. So one client started walking. She was on 2,000 steps a day. She's now up to about 6,000 steps a day on average, and she's lost 12 pounds. Yeah. It's such a small part, and I want people to realise that, and it's something, when I was younger, that was something I could easily do. You could just say, oh, well, I'll do a bit more exercise, I'll lose some weight, it's not a problem. People come to me now, particularly for women of a certain age, it's not going to work. You cannot out-exercise. You need to look at your food first and foremost. And if you do no exercise, you can still lose weight.
Yeah.
It's not ideal, but I mean, I had another client. She's had a terrible, terrible foot injury. Terrible foot injury. She can barely put any weight on it. She was losing weight purely by looking at her food. So, you know, that doesn't, as I say, I don't talk about restricting anything. You know, if you want to have a pint, have a pint. If you want to have, you know, pizza on a Friday night with the family, have pizza on a Friday night with the family.
Yeah.
It's not those one-off things that you do. It's what you do consistently, day in, day out, day in, day out. And that's not very exciting or pretty at times.
No.
But that's what really counts.
But yeah, you know, for me, that's always been logical. You know, it's like if you don't want to put weight on, then just don't eat the cakes, don't drink the Coke, don't do that stuff regularly. That stuff that you do all the time. So replace those things with things that you like, because you need to keep consistent to them. But replace those things. So, for example, change all of your pop and your Coke and whatever to water. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you don't like water, get flavoured water. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Find the flavour you like.
Yeah. I think, but the thing is, when you're in the thick of it, I couldn't even work that out for myself. Not when you're working 60 hours a week.
Yeah.
It's about implementing it in a way that you can around your lifestyle. That's what's key. And I think that's a really interesting point that you just said. I talk about either reduce or remove.
Yeah.
So if you can't reduce something, so some people I work with, they're like, I just literally, if I have a piece of cake, I want the whole cake. Or if I buy a bar of chocolate, I don't get a little bar of chocolate. I get like 10 little bars of chocolate. So it's like either reduce it, and if you can't reduce it, remove it until you're in a place that you can start to introduce it again in moderation. Yeah. So it's kind of like, you're right, it's absolutely scientific and it's physics. It's not Lisa made this up. It is about calories in, calories out. That's all it's about. It's a scientific fact. You need to be in a calorie deficit.
Yeah.
But there's ways in which you can do that. And what I do when I start working with my clients is we look at simple switches. We look at making slight reduction. Like I'll say to them, what one thing do you think you can work on? And they might say, I drink too much pop. And they say, I'm not going to drink pop. Fine, that's your choice. You work on that, but then we're going to work on some other small things.
Yeah.
So quite often, just by doing that, you're easily reducing calories.
Yeah. Well, I've come up with a formula which I was doing during lockdown, which I call the Smart Happiness Formula, which is how to become a happier you, how to be a happier person. And that is that consists of SMART, which is for sleep, meditation or mindfulness, ability to perform, which is my A, which covers exercise, nutrition and hydration, and random acts of kindness and targets. So having target setting and target achievement. And I believe if you do those 5 things in a certain ratio on a daily basis, you'll be really happy.
Yeah.
And there's science behind that as well, because of the stuff that goes through the brain, the hormones and the oxytocin and the, all the different things. It makes you scientifically happier.
I think absolutely. And I think one thing, particularly with the people that I work with, one thing they totally underestimate about is sleep. So, sleep's a key component for losing and maintaining weight. It's about managing your cortisol, your stress levels, and how your cortisol impacts your other hormones, particularly your ghrelin, which is your hunger hormone, and all that sort of stuff. But I mean, I'll be quite honest with you. A little while back, and I coming out of lockdown I found much tougher here. When we were right in that lockdown phase, I knew I couldn't do anything. I couldn't go anywhere. That's it. Coming out, I struggled much more, and I wasn't sleeping. And with that, I wasn't sleeping. And my normally very good food choices became poor choices. Everything started to get out of kilter, and I knew the first thing that I had to work on was getting quality sleep. So I went to the local herbalaria, as they call them, and I got some herbal sleeping tablets because I just knew that I was not functioning. And it's interesting that sleep coming first in your SMART. I mean, I know it's an acronym, but it's so important. If you're not sleeping well,
it's the bedrock. So that's what is first as well, because I've always been high impact, high energy, high achievement. I've always done a lot in my life. And I've always slept for 7.5, 8 hours every night.
Brilliant, yeah.
Because, at the end of the day, if you're going to burn the candle, if you're going to go for it full time, then you've got to recharge the battery, haven't you? Like, that's the way. That's always been my approach for life. And luckily, I've never had disturbed sleep. The first time I've had disturbed sleep is when I'm on this 75-day challenge, because I'm drinking a gallon of water a day. So I have disturbed sleep. But until then,
that's a big lady's problem anyway, Mike. So I'm used to. Yeah.
Especially when you've had kids, especially. I know.
I'm always up a couple of times in the night, but my sleep was so bad, and I really was struggling. I was, excuse me, talking of water.
I've always slept deep as well. I've always slept deep, and I'm the sort of person who because you're burning off so much energy. As soon as I'm tired in the night, I'm out, and then I'm dead sleep till 7.5, 8 hours. Then I'm up again, and just that routine has always worked well for me.
I've got a Fitbit, and it does my sleep, and my sleep had got so poor and so low, and I was feeling desperate. I was feeling sleep deprived, and it was just affecting everything. I was beginning to feel anxious. I was eating, as I say, I was making
a lot of bad stuff because of sugar and
choices.
Stuff. You're tired, aren't you? You want that sugar lift.
Well, normally where I'd be, I have to say my diet compared to most people is 100%, but it's not, I still enjoy what I want to enjoy. But I'd just be like, whereas normally I cook 2 different meals. I cook something for my husband, something for me. I was just like, I'll eat whatever it is I'll eat whatever he wants. I'm not bothered. I'm not, just everything. My work focus was low. My mind clarity was low. I was anxious. I was feeling depressed about stuff. Things were making me anxious that wouldn't normally bother me, and it was like become a different person almost. But that was where I had to start. I had to start with the sleep. And it's in the last month, it's been so much better.
Yeah.
But also the moral of that story, Mike, is that none of us are perfect.
No.
And I like to say I'm perfectly imperfect because, I still can gain weight. During that period, I gained weight. I've lost it now. But, none of us are perfect. We don't lead these perfect lives. And I think, I want to tell people, if they take one thing away from our chat today, it's, you just have to give it your best shot. It's about taking action. It's not about doing it perfectly. And there is always hope. Even when you get into these very low places, whether it's because, like me, I wasn't sleeping, or, when I talk to people, the negative impact of too much weight gain, and, there is always hope. There is always something around the corner. So, it's don't worry, it's not about perfection. It's just about your best shot.
Yeah, great. And I always think as well, it's about big picture thinking, because a lot of people, they do a diet or they do a routine, they break it, it's like, we're not going to drink for a while, and then they have a drink, and then they just keep drinking them. Whereas what you got to do is just realize that you can fall off the horse, and all you got to do is get back on. So you can have a wild weekend, or you can eat a takeaway, or do whatever you want to, but then just keep thinking about the long-term picture and actually get back into routine again. Like, you haven't got to just think, oh, well, I failed now, and that's it, move on.
I say there's no such thing as failure. It's only a lesson learned.
Yeah, that's the same thing I have. I actually don't agree with that necessarily. I say that if you make a failure, it's a lesson. If you haven't learned the lesson and you do it again, then it's a failure because you failed to learn the lesson. So make a mistake, but learn from it. Like, that's my.
But it's not. I say to people, it's like, so what if you have a takeaway? So what if you you enjoy it?
Human,
because it's life. It's called life. We want to live a life. We want to enjoy our lives.
That's right. Yeah, it's like I'm on a 75-day challenge now, which is a diet, no drinking a gallon of water, no drinking alcohol, 2 exercises of 45 minutes a day, 1 indoors, 1 outdoors at least. So sometimes you've got to do it wherever the weather is. and reading 10 pages from an educational book. So I've got to do all of those things every day. And some days you don't want to do it. Some days, you know, you don't feel like doing it, but I'm on a challenge and I want to do it. But when I finish, I'll probably have a bender for, you know, I'm already picking up the kebab that I want to eat. And I'll probably drink a few ciders and stuff because, you know, I've gone for such a long time without it. And they're things I enjoy. I enjoy now and then, you know, like once a month or, you know, whatever, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, you know, I mean, I always encourage my people that I work with, that sounds really rude, my clients, to enjoy something of what they want every week.
Yeah. Give yourself a reward.
Because it's not actually, it's very interesting because when people say, oh, I had a treat, it's like treats are for dogs.
Yeah.
You know, don't think of it as a treat, think of it as a choice. I want to have this because I like this, or, you know, because I think when you can start, for a lot of the people I work with, when you can start to build that in on a weekly basis and still get results and still see the scale shifting, that's more important. You know, when you go, oh, actually, I can eat some of these things, and, you know, and I'm still, because it's, as I say, it's not what you do once or twice a week, it's what you do consistently the rest of the time.
Yeah, I lost about a stone, I think, during this lockdown period. And like I say, before I did the 75-day challenge, I was exercising 3 times a day, probably, for about 2 hours. So I was doing an hour on the bike and 2 half-hour sessions on the weight. So now I'm only doing the 2:45. So I've gone down in exercise. But before that, before I did the 75-day challenge, I was doing exercise, say 5 or 6 days a week, not full 7, not day in, day out, Just giving myself a break when either the weather wasn't playing ball, or when you know, you felt like, oh, I'll have a break this Sunday or whatever, and I won't do it today.
Yeah.
Well, it's do it day in, day out, no matter what, like, you know.
It's good to have a break because your body needs the recovery time. You know, that's really important. But, you know, what was really interesting with me was I noticed that, you know, and I this is something I talk about a lot. You know, I just talked about the client that I'm just encouraging her to walk more on a daily basis. Inactivity and the sedentary nature of what a lot of most of us have become through gadgets, gizmos, home working, all this sort of thing. NEAT, which is non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So that's your fidget mode, you walk a bit more, take the stairs, not the lift. That's reduced considerably with lockdown. So for me, I always average 8,000 to 10,000 steps a day, plus my gym sessions, plus my tennis, whatever I do. And during lockdown, my step count went down to about 2,000 to 3,000. Now that's a huge, it's a huge amount of your day, not just that structured exercise, which is your exercise activity thermogenesis.
No, but like parking the car and having to walk to the meetings, or
exactly, a bit further away,
all that sort of stuff like that.
Yeah. And one of my friends here started a little charity challenge, you know, and tagging people on Facebook, walk 5,000 steps and donate €5 to this charity. So I did it, and I realised, oh my goodness, I've been doing 2,000 to 3,000 steps. I easily could do 5,000. It took a bit of thinking about. So I thought, well, you know, I really need to now set myself, during lockdown, this was 6,000 steps. And sometimes I would literally be walking up and down the stairs or around the roof terrace or in the little backyard, you know, because it's such an important part of everyone's daily activity. If you can't get to the gym, if you can't do some structured exercise on your bike, if you can't lift weights, if you can't play tennis, if you can't do structured things, keep moving.
A good strategy I got is
move more.
Yeah, a good strategy I got is to do star jumps while the microwave's on, or do star jumps while the kettle's boiling, or do star jumps while you're frying something in the pan. You know?
Or do some squats, or just like I put the kettle on, and you know my Fitbit tells me to move every hour. You know, so I put the kettle on and I just walk around the house until the kettle's boiled. Yeah. I just walk out, walk around, keep moving. It's just about moving more. And if anybody is watching this or listening to this, just start by moving more. Move a bit more than you did yesterday. Work on it for weeks. So if you're doing 4,000 steps, go up to 5,000 steps. You're doing 5,000, go to 6,000, just move a bit more.
Yeah, exactly. And if you do something regular every day, like two half-hour sessions every day, which is not a lot of time out of most people's day, and it's good to clear your head and get some fresh air and get some vitamin D on your skin and whatever.
Absolutely.
Collect your thoughts and get much more done in the rest of your time by just taking that half hour out,
And you can even break it down. So I say to people when they're really busy, like particularly before when people were in offices and stuff, break it down. Break 30 minutes down into 10 minutes 3 times. 10 minutes in the morning, get off the tube and stop earlier, walk for 10 minutes. 10 minutes at lunchtime, make you feel better. 10 minutes to the tube back. That's your 30 minutes. It doesn't even have to be all in one go. That's,
And the strategy of things, like I always pick the stairs, rather than the lift and things like that, just common sense stuff. And also, rather than park the car, outside the place you're going to be, parking a little bit further away and walking.
Absolutely.
Strategies like that, because for one, I don't like paying for parking. So I park my car a little bit further out and walk in, and I'm getting the exercise at the same time. So I'm saving money, getting the exercise. Everyone's winning.
Yeah, and I think, one of the reasons I don't like the diet industry and the press is because every day you can read something different about the best thing to do.
Yeah.
And it becomes very confusing, and most people forget the simplicity of the easy things to do and the best things to do. Yeah. And they think they've got to change everything in once, and that will never work. It's about that small step change. It's about what you can do, not what you can't do, that will make it sustainable.
Yeah, it's like anything. If you do it a little bit at a time, and you just get better and better at it. I did a Cardiff half marathon about 4 years ago, whatever, and I wasn't doing any running before I did that. So you have to do the couch to half marathon.
Yeah.
And ultimately, when you first start running, you can only run for like a minute or 30 seconds or something like that.
Yeah.
But if you just keep running for as far as you can and then stop, get your breath back and run for as far as you can and then stop. And if you do that the next day, but just try and beat what you did the day before. If you always have that mentality, just do a little bit more, beat what I did before. Eventually, you're running for an hour and a half, 2 hours, two and a half hours of time, because you haven't got to go out for a 2-hour run. You've got to go out for a 2-minute run first.
Yeah.
And then just keep growing on that.
I worked with a lady once, and she thought that was the answer, that she would go out and run for 2 hours. That's what she had to do, because that's what she used to do. And I said, no. Can you commit to doing that? And she went, well, no, not really. I said, well, don't do it. If you can't commit to doing it, you're starting in the wrong place.
Yeah.
Just go out, have a walk, do a bit of something.
Yeah, exactly. Once you get fitter and you lose a bit of weight, you'll find that you can jog, and then once you do that for a while, you'll find that you can run. So you got to start somewhere, haven't you? But So what's the main thing that you do when you're doing your sessions online? And is it more, educating people about their systems that they can follow and different changes that they can make? Or do you watch them exercise or give them exercises to do as well, or the whole?
No, that's not. I'm just conscious that I did mention to you that I'm just very conscious. I've got something imminently creeping up on me. I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
so what I do is a 12-week coaching program, and that's the difference. Yeah. So it's a 1-to-1 coaching session, like we would be looking at this, and we would look at making 2 to 3 changes each and every week. So very simple, small step changes. But alongside that, I have 6 training modules, which I give people, which talks about all the clutter and the noise and demystifies it and takes people back to the basics of what they know. And then I also do sort of mindset coaching.
Okay. And how do people
get coaching models?
How do people get in touch if they want to use
they can find me on LinkedIn, Lisa-Ali-coach, I think, on LinkedIn. They can email me, which is lisa@lisaalicoach.com. Or they can hop onto my website, www.lisaalicoach.com, not surprisingly.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. And yeah, it's a shame you have got to go, because I know quite a lot of people. I've been real world networking in Sussex for quite a while, for like 6 months last year. And also the lady I had on just before you today was from Chichester in Sussex. And a mate of mine lives in Brighton and runs Brighton's largest nightclub. So
Just down the road.
And also I'm a friend with a power network who's from somewhere in East Sussex as well. So next time we have a chat, I can do some introductions for you.
That would be fantastic. I'd love that. I'm so sorry, because it's just, I realised I nearly messaged you earlier. And I just sometimes, I know it's ridiculous, but it's only an hour. But sometimes I think, oh, I've got the time wrong. But I was like, I thought we probably wouldn't be more than about sort of half an hour, 45 minutes. But sometimes when you do get onto these things, you could be talking for 3 hours. You know?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I do like to talk. I also, don't mind listening as well. So I quite get to know people, etc. So, my chats are usually 30 to 45 minutes, most of the time 45 minutes. But we do have a few hour ones as well. And sometimes people, you just got more to say than the sort of 4 or 5 questions I have lined up, and if the conversation goes well, you feel comfortable and you want to go on, but
carry on.
There's usually time from one side or the other,
I'm always happy to come back and have another chat with you, Mike.
Yeah, brilliant. All right, then we'll connect more on socials and all of that, and we'll know how to get in touch with you now. So nothing else left for me to say, really, other than thank you very much for coming on my podcast. And
thank you. Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
No problem. And there's nothing else left for me to say now, other than have a great day. I know I will. And thanks very much.
And you too, Mike.